From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Welcome into this Monday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning. We'll go over some lines for the week. We'll give some final thoughts on Ole Miss and Alabama. Look ahead to Vanderbilt. There's been a bit of an update in the chancellor search. Probably touch on that a little bit too, and more. Whatever strikes us during the next hour and a little more here on the podcast. Brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon. Remember, free gas for your sweepstakes. That thing starts in just a day or two starting October 1st. You can register with the Mobile Rewards Plus program. Hopefully you've been doing that anyway because it just saves you money at the pump. Then every time you fill up with at least 8 gallons or more at participating Exxon Blue Sky stations, which are all the ones that you know throughout Mississippi, including the Oxford Exxon, you're immediately entered for that free gas for a year that runs through October 31st. So take advantage of that and use it to the best of your ability there. And again, we're coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900's the number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for, and he'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. That's simple. Right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is up to you. You can shop it around, or you can do what I've done 3 times now, and that is get yourself into a Clark Ford. You'll love it. You'll love the car, you'll love the truck, you'll love the service after the sale, delivery options, everything you could possibly want from a car dealer, you'll get it at Clark Ford, 662-257-1900.
So, good bit to get to. Where do you want to start today? What are you going to talk about?
What's your pick?
Let me pick. Let's see. 10 thoughts up on the site. You got a good bit of football from the past weekend against Alabama. Ole Miss losing 59-31. And then looking ahead to Vanderbilt as well. The Commodores snuck past Northern Illinois in their game on Saturday. You wrote a good bit about how, frankly, they looked improved in some ways. Some young guys played well. You and I talked about in our YouTube post-game live thing we did right. I say after the game, but it kind of started with a couple minutes left in the game, about how it may have been their best, most well-played game of the year. You were just playing the best team you've played, and the score was not ever going to turn out in your favor from that standpoint. It is a really strange thing, though, and I've talked to a lot of people over the last 24, 36 hours. There's no moral victory, per se. There's no whatever. But there is this strange little bit of momentum where you give up 60, you get beat by almost 30, and yet you can kind of take something forward into a winnable game against Vanderbilt this weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, if you watch that game objectively and get all the vitriol, which frankly has gotten sort of old, out, and just look at it objectively, they look better. They're doing things better. Alabama lit them up. Newsflash, Alabama lights up everybody and probably will light up everybody in the league, with the possible exception of Auburn and possibly Georgia if they meet them in the SEC championship game. Those are the only 2 defenses that probably have any realistic chance whatsoever to slow Alabama down, and I'm not sure they can do it. So offensively, with the true freshman quarterback who was pretty erratic as a thrower, they still put up points. They still put up yards. They ran significantly more plays than Alabama ran. I thought the offensive line was better. I thought the receiving core was better. I thought the young running backs looked good.
Yeah, Mingo had a bit of a breakout on Saturday.
There was a lot to build on. Now, we all said before that game, they're going to lose to Alabama. There's a 0% chance they were going to beat Alabama, and there remains a 0% chance they're going to beat Alabama. It was always about that one a week later, which is now 5 days away, is the big one, and it is absolutely the big one. If they beat Vanderbilt on Saturday night, are they where they want to be from a win-loss standpoint? Well, of course not. They wanted to be 5-1 after 6 games. The best they can be is 3-3. But if they beat Vanderbilt, They have some momentum going into the second half of the season, which in my opinion doesn't look as daunting as we thought it did back in the offseason, in the summer, even in August, even in the first couple weeks of September. They'll be underdogs in 5 of their final 6 games. But there are winnable games. Texas A&M is winnable. Mississippi State is winnable. New Mexico State's a win. I don't think it's very winnable, but they could play with Missouri. I think Auburn and LSU are prohibitive favorites against Ole Miss if the teams played today. But there's a path. And you get the fans stay engaged a little longer at the very least if you beat Vanderbilt on Saturday and you look good doing it. A loss Saturday, and I don't want to use the word catastrophic because, again, as we've touched on it for a while, there is no chancellor to hire an AD. There is no AD to make a coaching change. So all that stuff, with all the vitriolic words and stuff, they frankly have no teeth to them right now because there's no one to do that. But if they were to lose to Vanderbilt on Saturday night, from a buy-in standpoint, as it pertains to the fan base, it's over.
It is from a buy-in. There's no doubt.
And I don't think that's hyperbolic.
You called it the most critical game of the Matt Luke era, and it's hard to argue with that. From a situational standpoint where we are, yes. Now, I would argue if they'd not beaten Mississippi State, he probably doesn't get the job, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah, I thought about it when I was writing that.
It's a different scenario. Like, you have to kind of get past this to have this conversation.
If you want to know the truth, I wasn't in the mood to spend 3 paragraphs on that.
Okay.
Because then you have to get into, and I'll go one further. I'm not convinced that what happened the day after Thanksgiving doesn't happen anyway.
Right. I don't know.
And so I don't know. So, but this is the biggest game he's coached.
We're a couple days later. You obviously wrote 10 Thoughts yesterday. You had another night's sleep on it. We'll find out more today, I assume, potentially. I expect a lot of Coy just to make Vanderbilt prepare for a lot of different people no matter what. But quarterback situation, where do you sort of fall as we moved into Monday?
Oh, I think they both play. They being Corral and Plumlee. I think they'll play at Coy all week, which is what I would do. I'd at least make Vanderbilt prepare for both. They're not a ton different. It's not like they run completely different stuff. You're running the same basic stuff, but they have different skill sets. If you're Vanderbilt, you have to focus on Plumlee, the runner. And I am curious to see when a team locks in on Plumlee and says, hey, we're not going to let you run on us. Does he have the ability to make teams pay for that vertically? He made a couple of good throws against Alabama. He made several bad throws against Alabama. He missed open targets. He threw balls behind people. And I could hear people saying, this is what's interesting. It feels like the fan base is cheering for Corral, for Plumlee, in a way that it didn't cheer for Corral, which is a fascinating dynamic and one that could play itself out inside a stadium and kind of get awkward. But we'll see. I think they'll play both of them for a little while, but you know me and cliches. Cliches stick around for a reason. It's because there's like a lot of layers of truth to them. And one of the cliches is if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any. And so at some point you have to pick your guy and roll. I don't think 2 quarterback systems where they're both playing a lot, I don't think that works a lot.
And then you get the fascinating element, and I don't know how he factors into this, if at all, at this point, but you and I reacted in real time with cameras on us. Grant Tisdale, 2 true really pretty balls on Saturday. Game was over. I get it was mop up, all that stuff. They're 2 really nice passes to make us go, okay. I don't know. Just a thought.
It looked good.
It did. Where Plumlee has the advantage to play some is he's such a different guy, but not system-wise, but with the running element, you can make him part of the 2 quarterback system. You can't really make Corral and Tisdale the 2 quarterback system. You know what I mean? They're the same dude.
Corral and Tisdale, yeah. I think they're the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Plumlee, there's a package at the very least.
The change of pace allows him to play no matter who your other quarterback is.
Yeah.
What worries me about Plumlee, if you're Ole Miss, is yes, the throwing has got to get better, all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't even like when people were in his face. I pulled up Pro Football Focus, and when Plumlee wasn't facing pressure, there was no pressure on him at all. On Saturday, he was 7 of 21 on 22 dropbacks. 7 of 21 for 93 yards. That's only 4.4 per attempt. The interception that he floated came during that situation as well. And there was one batted ball. I think that was really early in the game, one of the first couple throws, maybe the first throw. And then there was one drop as well. But, 22 dropbacks, 21 passes, not facing pressure. Threw for 3 first downs and 93 yards on 7 completions. That just has to get better. That's not good enough.
It has to get better. And now you're playing a team that has a full game of film on him. There's less secret. The one thing you can't prepare for is just how fast he is.
No, he surprised Alabama with his athleticism and said he was the second quarterback to run for at least 100 yards against the Nick Saban Alabama team, Kyler Murray being the other quarterback. He's doing okay these days. So, yes, it's not. You cannot simulate it. Frankly, if you're Vanderbilt, you almost got to put a running back there to play quarterback. That's the only way you even get sort of close. Because he's deceptively quick. I mean, it's a legitimate speed, and there were lots of times where he beat Alabama to the edges. So it can work. You just got to be able to throw a little bit to offset that. Also, he's got to get down a little bit. I mean, I admire his toughness. He's a hell of a leader, but he's going to get killed. He's got to do a little more to protect his body.
Agreed 1,000%. You just can't take those hits day in and day out.
And he got better as the game went on. I think early on he was so dang hyped up that he was just running at linebackers. And then once the game went on, he was smarter about, hey, let's get out of bounds, let's get down, let's dodge our body. He needs to take a page out of Dexter McCluster's book. You know, Dex was always great at kind of glancing blows, if you will. It wasn't just getting down, giving yourself up, but it at least was taking out those square hits that will hurt you and injure you as you move forward.
Well, you watch NFL games. You watch NFL receivers. They catch a ball and they look in the open field, but once something's coming,
yeah,
or once somebody's got them, they don't stand there and try to get the extra yard and get broken in half. They get down. Mitch Trubisky may have ended his season yesterday trying to be athletic with the football. That's not what the quarterback's there for. Corral's missed a game now because of it, quite frankly. I get that it's courageous and all that stuff. It's not smart. It's not what you want your quarterback to do, especially on a team that has 3 really good running backs. I just don't think the quarterback running the ball 25 times is I don't think it's a sustainable plan in this league. And so that's why when people go, why are you down on Plumlee? I'm not. I love a package with him. But if he's going to be your primary quarterback, defensive coordinators are going to watch film of him, and they're going to say, hey, we're going to put 8, 9 in the box. We're going to get after this guy. We're going to spy him. We're going to make him throw because he'll make us pay a little bit, but we think he'll screw it up. We don't think he's accurate. We don't think he's going to go through progressions. We just don't think he's going to do those things. We think he'll make mistakes. That's what the film will show. And I just think when a defense, especially a good defense, and there are some good defenses coming up quickly on Ole Miss's schedule, I just think a good defense is going to take that away. And he'll have to be able to throw the ball or else he won't be ineffective. It's kind of like when I know I always make baseball analogies. You bring up a kid from the minor leagues and you'll see the first 2-3 weeks of his career, he's hitting 370. Then the scouting report gets out and they find whatever the weakness is and they just hammer it and hammer it and hammer it. And all of a sudden the strikeout rate goes up, the walk rate goes down. He's getting a lot of weak contact. And before you know it, he's back in AAA with something to work on. The film's on Plumlee now. They've scouted him. And so he'll have to make some adjustments moving forward. Some of the same things happened to Corral. Made it harder once you got film on him that you could see, hey, here's what he does well. Here's what he doesn't do well. We're going to take him away. Look at what Alabama did with Elijah Moore. Alabama was determined Saturday to not let Elijah Moore kill them.
Yeah, Elijah Moore had 7 targets on Saturday, 3 receptions, 40 yards, 1 first down. So they pretty much took him out of the game. However, we mentioned it's only 3 catches, but Mingo turned all 3 targets into 3 catches, scored a touchdown and 74 yards. So that was big for Ole Miss on Saturday.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think there's a lot to build on from that game, but you have to build on it now. Now it's about perception. It's about confidence in the program. It's about keeping fans engaged, keeping fans excited, keeping the kids engaged and excited. If you win Saturday, you go into the second half of the season, like I said, with the chance. You got a chance to make a little noise, have some fun, see what happens. You lose Saturday, and that's out too. They're not going to lose Saturday and then go 4-2 in the second half of the season. That's not realistic.
Elijah did whip up on Cheyenne Carter a little bit. He had 3 catches and 4 targets for 40 yards against Cheyenne on Saturday. I'm just glancing at some stats.
Yeah.
Braylon Sanders only 1 target the whole game on Saturday.
He had 1 catch, right?
I'm not even sure he had 1, but maybe. I don't know.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I mean, I do, but I'm not scrolling to that part. We'll talk about quarterbacks all week. We'll also talk about the secondary because the other side of it is that Ole Miss is going to have to cover a little bit. They just did not do that on Saturday. And can the kid from Vanderbilt take advantage of the same things that some other people have taken advantage of? So we'll talk about that as well in 1 second. We'll get into the chancellor stuff also and more. We got lines coming to you today on today's show. Also, we'll get into those looking at the upcoming week without a lot of games. Only a few games coming this week. First, tell you about Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. 30 years old this year. One of the oldest mortgage companies in the Southeast, a leader in condo financing, and all processing and underwriting is done in Memphis. They're getting local underwriting and understands your market. Got the float down option with the rates as low as they've been in about 2 years. Good time to talk to Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
Join the Ole Miss football team back at the Vault for an SEC showdown and homecoming on Saturday, October the 5th versus Vanderbilt. For more information, visit OleMissTix.com. The 2019-20 Ole Miss Hoops season just around the corner. Don't miss any of the action of Coach Yo's women's basketball team and Coach Kermit Davis's men's team this season in the pavilion. For tickets, visit OleMissTix.com and join the Ole Miss men's and women's hoops teams on Friday, October the 18th for Square Jam on the Oxford Square. Bring the family out to the free event featuring skills contest, player autographs, and a dunk contest to cap off the night. For more information, visit OleMissSports.com. We're also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They've got a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles. Go in, test drive one today. Tell Gene and Sandy you heard about Grenada Nissan right here on this podcast or at rebelgrove.com, and you'll get Rebel savings on top of the already great deals at Grenada Nissan. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. Oxford Park Commission Youth Basketball is just a bounce away. This is their final week to sign up for the upcoming season. Registration will come to a close on Friday, October the 4th. Leagues are open for both boys and girls, ages 5 to 15. Cost to play is just $50. Visit their website, OxfordParkCommission.com, for more details on the 2019-2020 season. And speaking of Oxford, this podcast also brought to you by Oxford University Bank, OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB gives you the comfort of home, all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all with a personal touch. They also give you the absolute best cash checking account anywhere. It's called Kasasa, and with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000. Refund ATM fees nationwide. OUB also offers online bill pay and mobile check deposit using its online app. To learn more about OUB, check out liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured.
Podcast is brought to you by Mastercuts Lawn and Landscape. We got premium lawn care throughout northern Mississippi, but a lot more as well. They build custom playgrounds, retaining walls, pool decks, outdoor living spaces with paver patios. You get forestry mulching and much more. The patch your dream backyard easier than you think. Go online at gomastercuts.com for a free quote or get that same free quote at 662-607-7773. Again, that's gomastercuts.com. Vanderbilt had a pretty rough start to the season. Again, they beat Northern Illinois. They're okay. They're kind of what Vanderbilt always is, Neil. You know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of fine. It's whatever. It's nothing that's going to write home about. They're all right.
They're not very good. They're very good. I'll put the heat on it. A loss would be inexcusable.
What's interesting about this series to me, and this is not like whatever. I mean, I get fans. I mean, you go into every season, and frankly, for Ole Miss to be successful, they have to beat Vanderbilt. That's one of the games they must win. We talk about this. They need to go 4-0 in the non-league. They need to beat Vanderbilt more often than not. They need to beat Mississippi State.
Yep.
That's the way you do it. And then you try to split some other games, and suddenly you look up, you're 8-4, 9-3. But this series over the last 10 years, 5-5 against the spread, 4-6 for Ole Miss against the spread against Vanderbilt, 5-5 overall. The over/under 4-6. Like, this thing is so even. 28 to 25.5 is the cumulative score over the last 10 years. I mean, it has been a toss-up for a decade. It's crazy.
It says so much about where the program has been.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to Vanderbilt. They do a lot of things well in athletics. They have the single best baseball program in the country. They do traditionally very well in basketball. They do a lot of things well. Football's not their jam. The system is not created for them to succeed in football. In reality, everything works against them in football. They can't go buy the best players. They just can't do it. They can't recruit the way other people recruit. Nashville kids don't grow up diehard Vanderbilt fans. They just don't. It's a private school. Their grads are from all over the country, blah, blah, blah. There's no reason that if they're beating you 5 out of 10 times, your program's in trouble. That's why Tennessee's in one of the symptoms, one of the easy things to diagnose with Tennessee is, wait, what's your record against Vanderbilt? Oh, we've lost 2 in a row. You got problems. Something's going wrong. If Ole Miss is cruising as a program, it's 8-2 every 10 years against Vandy, at worst. This has to be a win. If it's not a win, something's fundamentally flawed with your program.
You get such a gift from the SEC office that they're your permanent East opponent, and you just do not take advantage of it.
Chase, it's frankly when people do the black helicopter thing with Ole Miss, the league hates Ole Miss, the league's out to get Ole Miss, the league. You get Vanderbilt every year. LSU gets Florida every year. You don't think Arkansas would love to go, hey, I'll tell you guys what, y'all take Missouri, we'll take Vanderbilt.
You want to trade?
All day. You don't think Mississippi State would jump on that trade right now?
State's done a really good job of beating Kentucky more often than not.
But they trade in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Hey, Ole Miss, y'all want to go? Y'all can go to Lexington every other year and play those guys. We'll take Vanderbilt. Deal. We'll even throw in some candy. I mean, it's an absolute gift from the league that you get Vanderbilt as your permanent opponent, and you have to beat them. This game Saturday is not only is it must win, it's an inexcusable game not to win. And the fans know it. So people go, man, I can't believe you're saying all this stuff. You're going to hurt your access and stuff. I'm not saying anything fans don't think. Hang out with fans before a season when the Vanderbilt's on the schedule. They go, W. Even after you lost to them 5 out of the last 10 years or whatever it is. W. You know why? Because it should be a W. They're the one program in the league. Well, they're one of the 2 programs in the league, maybe 3, that literally have no ability to recruit like you.
Well, I've said this on the podcast before. unless they did this past year, they have never signed a top 100 player in the Rivals era. Ever. An SEC school.
Yeah, the system's just not built for them to succeed. That's why they basically said, screw it.
They did a heck of a job 2 years under James Franklin.
They did.
And otherwise, meh.
And he spent those 2 years frantically trying to get out.
Yeah.
He did a hell of a job. I've said this a lot of times. He is not a good person, but he is one hell of a football coach.
Hard to argue that.
I think the guy that's there now is a good football coach and a good guy. He just can't get it done. You can't overcome the things that work against them. But I'll tell you this. Here's the thing about Vanderbilt this weekend, and you'll see it. Unlike when they play Georgia or Florida or whoever, where they go, you know what, we probably can't get this done. We never do. They come down here. This one's circled. This is hey, we could get this one. They're looking at this and going, if we get this one, we've got a chance later. They will absolutely come to Oxford with confidence. And they should.
We'll talk about this all. Go ahead.
I think Ole Miss wins, and I think Ole Miss wins fairly big Saturday. I think this is going to be kind of a breakout game. Everything seems to be pointing in that direction in my eyes. If it doesn't happen, major questions.
Riley Neal, the Vanderbilt quarterback, we're going to talk about this all week, so we'll just start it here. He's thrown mostly at the line of scrimmage, within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, has not gone down the field much this season at all. On passes of 20 yards or more, he's 2 of 10 this season, is it? They've got to challenge that, right? If you're Vanderbilt, you just tell him, hey, you got to sack up and make those throws, right?
Yeah.
Got to test it.
They're begging him. I've been reading about them the last 24 hours. They're begging him to have more confidence. As someone who battles confidence, that can tell you you don't just get it. But it's going to be a lot like Garber's. If you're playing Ole Miss, it's much like if you're playing John Rice Plumlee. You look at it and go, okay, what do we have to do here? Take the Ole Miss stuff out of it. You're playing him as the quarterback. You say we have to take him away as a runner. We have to make him beat us with his arm. And if he does, we tip our helmet and go on about our business. If you're Vanderbilt and you're playing against Ole Miss's defense, you say we have to test those corners. We have to test them in the middle of the field. We've got to test their safeties. We've got to see if we can get their safeties' eyes caught in the backfield like Alabama did a couple of times. We've got to go vertical. You don't beat Ole Miss by stubbornly running it at them. They've taken the run away. And they're going to take the run away on Saturday. It's going to come down to the ability of Riley Neal to have a game. And if he's one of those guys, if he gets going, it could be a long night. But if he doesn't get going, I think it could be a blowout because I don't think they're as good as Arkansas. And Ole Miss handled Arkansas's offense. I don't think Riley Neal's as good as Starkel.
Ben Hicks had a decent day on Saturday.
Ben Hicks played really well.
Yeah.
Got to give Arkansas a ton of credit, man. I mean, they had every reason in the world to just go in there and roll over and get pummeled. And they didn't. They played really hard. I give them a ton of credit. That spoke a lot about them, and it also told you a lot about A&M. They're just average. They're fine. You can bully Kellen Mond. That's why this game. I'm being repetitive. I'm sorry. It's why this game Saturday is so big for Ole Miss. So big, because even if you go to Mizzou and lose, you come home for what I think is a very winnable game. And if you get it, and then you're going to get New Mexico State. I mean, you can do the math. That one in Starkville could have something riding on it besides the silly egg.
State just got popped by Auburn.
They're not good. No, Auburn's great. Auburn is borderline elite. State's just, they're okay.
Ooh, great? Elite? Think so?
Defensively, yes.
Okay, but they can't score. Okay.
Scored at will Saturday.
Yeah, I know, but okay.
Move the ball at will. Got to give Malzahn credit right now. If you did the voting today, he's the SEC Coach of the Year.
Yeah, no problem with that. I would contemplate Orgeron, but I'm fine with Gus.
What they're getting, but Orgeron's doing it by staying out of the way.
Yeah.
Malzahn's actually calling plays, and if you watch them, and I watched a good bit of that Saturday, he's really controlling himself.
Something in the past he's never done.
He's the alcoholic at a bar controlling his
club soda.
Yeah, he's just taking a sip of his soda and he's got a drink right in front of him and he's just not grabbing it. Or if he does, he just takes a sip and then he throws it away, pushes it away. He doesn't
in years past, he'd be looking for tequila shots at this point.
Well, yeah, he can't stop himself. And they're not being really cute. They're being, and frankly, he's using his cute stuff just enough to keep it on film.
Bo Nix has done a really good job of maturing into that offense.
He has. And the other kid's decent when he plays. Gatewood.
Yeah.
It's been a hell of a coaching job. And defensively, they're
really good defensively.
They will bully you on defense.
Yeah.
That front seven is special.
We'll get into a little more of them with the lines coming up here in a little bit on the show. Little news last night. So Adam Ganeshow of Mississippi Today, I know Adam, good reporter, put out a pretty lengthy story about the Ole Miss chancellor search. The main thing that was in it were the 8 people who have received invitations to interview on September the 19th. Adam writes this, but I will, and I've talked about this a ton, but a couple things here. One, these are just invitations to interview. The people can decline the interviews, obviously. This does not necessarily gauge the interest of the other parties. This also does not mean that they're the only candidates that either have come up or will come up in this process. The IHL has the ability to add people at their own will as well. So just understand that as we go through this list here for a second. The 8 people, most of these names that you've heard about on this here podcast, there are a couple though that I have not really talked about, and there was one that I had no idea was even a candidate at all. So Michael Benson, president of Eastern Kentucky, we knew that one. Kelly Damphouse, I'm assuming House, he's Canadian, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Chancellor at Arkansas State, Sharon Gaber, president of Toledo, I had no clue about that application whatsoever. Bill Hardgrave, essentially the number 2 at Auburn. Chris Howard, the president of Robert Morris. He's been on the College Football Playoff Committee. People have been talking about him for a long time. Cal Mayo, Robert Robbins, and Fred Sleibach, who we've also mentioned. He's the president of Texas Wesleyan. So those 8 received those invitations per Adam. I completely trust him on the subject. The only thing that strikes me about this list, we've talked about Robbins at length. I'm not going down that again today. Not surprised by any of the other names for the most part. With Howard, he's the hot name this morning everybody's talking about. He has a hell of a resume. There's no doubt. I just don't know what his interest is. Also, I think that there was a link between the search firm and Howard. I think they reached out to him, and I just don't know at this point where that stands from an interest level. I think the person everybody's sleeping on is Bill Hardgrave at Auburn. I've talked to so many people to where I'm backing off a little bit of it, but everybody kind of has a pro and a con on everybody. I don't hear any cons on Bill Hardgrave at all. No matter who I talk to that knows Bill Hardgrave, they like Bill Hardgrave. He is a candidate at Auburn. However, Auburn's timeline appears to be all over the place, maybe even worse than Ole Miss's is. I don't know how that would impact any potential shot with him, but just saying, if there's a name that is not being talked about enough from an ability standpoint, it's Bill Hardgrave.
Yeah, listen, number one, we have spent probably as a quote news organization, end quote, as you just said, we've probably spent way more time on it than we should have. I'm surprised his name hasn't come up more, and it makes me suspicious of. I'm more cynical than you are, probably. I'm more skeptical than you are.
Well, here's the reason that I'm not. I know where you're going. I'll let you finish. I didn't really mean to cut you off, but we don't really know how his name's coming up with actual decision makers. He just isn't interesting to fans.
That's true. If his name's not coming up with decision makers, I'm super cynical. Because he's a guy who, quite frankly, maybe even look. I know Robbins is the perfect candidate. I get it. I understand. But that was always going to be problematic. I mean, literally the problems that have come up were predicted months ago. Hargrave can interview for the job. He can go through the process. No one's going to hold it against him. He's in the very league that you're in. He's in the conference that you're in, the division that you're in. I know it's not about athletics. I'm not making it about athletics. He's at an institution that is very similar to Ole Miss. Big state public school, beautiful campus, lots of tradition, engaged fans, all of those things. Engaged alums. They have alums from, Auburn has giant alumni bases in Atlanta and Birmingham, of course, and Mobile and Nashville, and it's a very similar job. It's a very similar gig. He makes a ton of sense. He's personable. He's engaging. He would be able to hit the ground running. Now, here's what he doesn't have, to the best of my knowledge, and I haven't dug into him at all. So if I'm dead wrong here, someone just send me the email. It's all good. I don't know that he has strong Mississippi ties. He's been at Auburn a long time.
Yeah, I was told, quote, he pretty much at this point in his life bleeds orange and blue. Now, he can quickly get away from that, but he has been linked to Auburn for a very considerable amount of time.
Yeah, he can bleed green.
Yeah.
Red, blue. That orange turns to red fast. All you got to do is just stick green into the orange dye. I don't know if you know this, but green turns orange red. To me, that kind of stuff is like, whatever.
He served as the dean of the business school at Auburn from 2010 to 2017 prior to his current post.
To becoming the provost.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's been there a decade, I guess.
To me, he makes sense.
Before that, just kind of looking here, prior to his appointment at Auburn, Hargrave held the Bradbury Chair in Information Systems in the Sam Walton College of Business at Arkansas.
So he's been in the league pretty much his entire life.
That is correct. Almost all of his experience is in the SEC.
Arkansas, another school that's very similar to Ole Miss. Literally faces some of the same challenges and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting from his resume as I just quickly glance at it.
Just makes a lot of sense to me.
It's not the worst thing in the world at all.
But he doesn't have the Mississippi ties, and I think that works against him. I keep hearing all of that. We need to have somebody with ties to Mississippi. That's important. Someone who knows the way that the thing works and the IHL works and blah blah blah. And I'm pretty cynical and skeptical and sort of have very little education on this, but I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Potentially with a name not on that list.
Yeah, potentially with the name that's conducting that's coordinating the deal. Where they can say, hey, we looked at all these people, but turns out the one that we really wanted was right underneath us. Because you can take that list of 8, and I can individually, collectively, I'm stealing your material here a little bit. Collectively, it's a good list. But when you break it down individually, you can start.
There's not a sure thing on that list.
No, I'm willing to do it out loud and give you negatives on every one of those people. Negatives that I think in the end would really hurt the candidate.
Yeah, you and I did it off air, and we basically had one on everybody.
A big one on everybody.
Yeah. Because here's the deal, and this is, I mean, it is what it is. This process is this process, and sure, there was a little leniency on stuff, but A, it's human nature, people are going to talk. B, sure, you don't have to actually apply, but your name's going to be linked, all that stuff. The problem with this process, and I was talking to somebody about this yesterday who mentioned it is a deterrent. This isn't about Robbins. It's a deterrent to getting any president or chancellor at a sitting school that is equal or better than you. Because it is such a dang long process, and it is so, not really public, but just weird, that they can't do it. They lose capital at their current jobs. There's no guarantee they're getting the job when they come and apply for it or interview it or whatever. It is a detriment to the process with how it takes so long that, frankly, it limits your pool of overly successful people. I mean, Robbins only got to this point because he actually was interested. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
You got a guy that you're trying to recruit and go get. I don't know, just throw in school out. It doesn't really matter. Like the chancellor at Syracuse or some crap. Well, that guy can't go through the process. The process doesn't allow it. So that's the problem. And this is, look, I don't know how you change that. This is not a criticism of Ford Dye or Chip Morgan or anybody else. I think they're stuck in this process like all of us are to some extent. But it is absolutely the problem. It is a detriment to achieving the highest level candidate you can get. And you cannot convince me otherwise of this.
No, the process is flawed. Big time. But it is what it is. It's not changing. There's not going to be some revolutionary change between now and the time that they hire another chancellor. That's why I'm cynical about this list. But it's absolutely a flawed process. There's no question about that.
It's why coaching searches run how they work.
Yeah,
you
can
identify a guy and you go get a guy.
Yeah, and you can do a coaching search in the dark.
Yeah.
To a degree. These are harder to do. The proof of it is what happened last week in Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
The heat got turned up. Now he has plausible deniability. I never applied for that job.
Yeah, and that was something that, to their credit, everybody did pretty well. Hey, now you don't have to actually send in an application. Okay, cool, whatever. Great, thanks. And now look, the guy at Eastern Kentucky is not getting beaten up in Eastern Kentucky today because he applied for the Ole Miss gig.
No, of course not.
Yeah, sure, okay. Good luck, Michael.
Yeah.
Kelly Damphouse is not getting beaten up in Jonesboro today.
But you can't be the president at the University of Arizona.
No.
Where they're about to go through a real challenging deal and be distracted.
And in the middle of a heck of a capital campaign.
It just doesn't work.
Because the chancellor position is a fundraiser. If you think you're losing your chancellor, you're not going to cut him 6-figure checks. Just saying.
No, of course not.
You're going to worry about the direction of the school. The way to get Robert Robbins was to go get Robert Robbins. Period. Just like it would be for the chancellor, like I said, of Syracuse or wherever. Pick your school. Don't care. Same thing.
Yeah, it's
the chancellor's on this list other than the guy that is from Mississippi and is at least open to the idea of coming back. He's the only exception. Otherwise, it's Toledo and Eastern Kentucky and Arkansas State. Okay.
Yeah.
The Toledo guy, woman might be trying to get away from Rob Reinstedel. He's the new baseball coach up there in Toledo. But he sends her all kind of letterhead. We'll continue with the podcast in a second. First, I'll tell you about G&M Pharmacy there on South Lamar in Oxford. Also, Tyson Drugs in Holly Springs on the square in Holly Springs. Flu season is quickly approaching, and Tyson Drugs and G&M have flu vaccines available with a $0 copay on most insurance plans. No one has time to wait in line for the overworked pharmacist at the chain drugstore, so stop by one of the locally owned pharmacies where they have multiple pharmacists available dedicated to getting you in and out as quickly and painlessly as possible. You can find G&M, again, on South Lamar or 662-236-2222.
The podcast also brought to you by Harry Alexander. He's an Oxford-based RE/MAX Legacy Realty agent. He is the sponsor of my 10 Weekend Thoughts, which are up on rebelgrove.com. It's part of the Rivals Network. It's the only product in the history of mankind that the price never changes. It's 30, 40 years. No, inflation does not impact Rivals.com. So you can check that out. It's brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry's a big part of Savannah Square. It's a new 9-acre development, 0.7 of a mile from the Oxford Downtown Square. Conveniently located east of North Lamar, just a short stroll from the Midtown Shopping Center. It has 32 the initial rollout, 32 standalone homes ranging in size from about 1,100 to about 2,400 square feet. There's several homes in different stages of development out there. You can check it out if you're coming up this weekend. Get in touch with Harry, 662-801-5621 or SavannahSquareOxford.com. We are also brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you've been thinking about that golf trip you'll never forget with the guys, an anniversary trip she'll never forget, whatever the case may be, I recommend that you get in touch with John. He's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners, allows him to supply his clients with added values and unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. So basically, if you're thinking about going with the boys to Pebble Beach or taking her to Napa or Europe, or you're thinking about a Caribbean trip, something Scotland, whatever the case may be, all things that some of you have done through John since he has started with us here at MPW Digital, get in touch with him, give him some parameters, give him a budget. I promise you he's going to give you options you can't get on your own. And you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387 or send him an email, j.edwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. We're also brought to you by the Westin Jackson. The Westin Jackson sponsors my mailbag, which will be published every Wednesday. It's also home to Soul Spa, the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson, as well as Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro, where you can sip on a creative craft cocktail or enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinners, and Sunday brunch, and Chef Caden's mission is to connect guests with the community through local partnerships. So gather at Estelle at the Westin Jackson tonight.
A little fun with numbers here for you. Reading this from Daniel Jeremiah of Move the Sticks. Through 4 games, DK Metcalf, 10 catches for 223 yards. A.J. Brown, 10 catches for 223 yards.
A.J.'s a stud.
Yeah, he does not have Russell Wilson throwing him the football. If he did, it would greatly behoove his stats. It would help. Mariota has not been exactly perfect this season. So, anyway.
No, he's not been. I tell you what, man, NFL quarterbacks dropping like flies.
That felt like a gift last night. The defense, though, is actually pretty salty.
Defense is really good. Saints defense has been good all year. They were good against the Rams.
Yeah. Rams got torched by Tampa Bay yesterday. Stuff happens. It's football.
Oh, the guys on the other team are professionals, too. With the exception of Miami, everybody can beat everybody.
Yeah, Miami can't beat everybody.
No, on a given day.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Throw one at you.
Yeah, sure.
Throw one at you. A little NFL, just a quick side. If Trubisky is out for the season, and no one knows if he is or not, the Bears were being pretty coy yesterday.
They won, though, right?
Bears won 16-6. Speaking of great defenses, that is a Super Bowl caliber defense.
It is. It feels like the year where the Saints and Bears play each other in the playoffs.
It could easily happen. So where I'm going with this is the Saints, they know they're going to get Breeze back.
Just trying to salvage this thing right now.
Yeah. They're going to get Breeze back. It might be in 4 weeks. It might be in 6 weeks. Whatever the case may be. I think every win Teddy Bridgewater gives them a little more leeway to go, hey, Drew, make sure the thumb's good now. But regardless, they're going to get Drew Brees back at some point in the season. For this hypothetical, let's say that the Bears find out that they're not going to get Trubisky back, that the McCready jersey jinx kicked in and he's out. You got Chase Daniel, who is as backup quarterbacks go, superb. He can come in, he can manage a game, all of that stuff. But
He's
I don't
similar to Teddy. He's fine.
Yeah, I don't know that he's getting you to the promised land. Do you call the Giants? Eli definitely has a better arm than Chase Daniel.
Of course.
And in that Bears system, you're not asking Eli Manning to go out and win games. Got some receivers, got some guys you can throw it to, got a couple of good running backs, and again, an elite defense. I mean, they didn't even have Roquan Smith yesterday or Akeem Hicks, and it didn't matter.
Well, and you're playing football in a very similar environment. It's windy.
Cold.
Things he's very accustomed to.
Yeah.
Which matters. I mean, that does. That's a part of it.
Daniel Jones is quickly proving all of the draft experts. He's kind of proving them wrong is what he's doing. Daniel Jones is, when I talk to other sports writers and they say, what do you think? Give me tips. Okay, I'll give you one. Don't be a scout. Be careful with being a scout. You're not one. You're a writer. Write, report, talk to scouts. But be careful being a scout.
But you got to think about it. Yeah,
the Giants quarterback. They're not going back to Eli unless there's an injury. No, and if they have an injury, frankly, they're not trying to be a playoff team this year anyway.
It's an interesting thought. I don't see it happening, but I get the thought.
Yeah, I don't know that Eli would do it. I don't know that if the two teams agreed, hey, we'll give you a 4th-round pick for Eli Manning, we'll figure out a way on the offset the money thingy. I don't even know that Eli would sign off on it.
Giants hosting Minnesota this coming week. They are 4.5-point underdogs to the Vikings at home.
Minnesota's good. That Bears defense just makes average quarterbacks, and Cousins is an average quarterback. It makes average quarterbacks look well below average.
Saints host Tampa Bay this week. They are 6.5-point favorites over the Buccaneers at home.
It's a lot of points coming off of an emotional game, but I like their chances. I give Bridgewater credit, man. He's not doing anything special, but he's not getting you beat either.
Well, no, because, I mean, they got a chance to beat Tampa Bay at home. I mean, may not, but, I mean, he's already done more than anybody could expect. I mean, he's already beaten the Seahawks and the Cowboys in back-to-back weeks. But,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, come on. But you can beat Tampa Bay at home, and then you go to Jacksonville, and Gardner has been fine, but they're not dynamic. It's a winnable game in Jacksonville.
That dude did you see the end of that yesterday?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I mean, I'm so happy for him. I mean, I really am. He cracks me up. But
I mean, you talk about a guy that's getting the absolute most out of his 15 minutes of fame.
He gets it.
It's awesome.
He gets it.
I mean, I'm in my living room yesterday like, come on, Jags.
I mean, dude, even if it's a backup, he's going to have a long NFL career.
Sure, he's very smart.
He's hanging out. I mean, yeah, he's doing enough. He's not. He is by far one of the best 64 quarterbacks in the NFL.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, I mean, no doubt. Point being, that's a winnable game for the Saints. Now you just go to Chicago and grit your teeth and take your medicine. Unless Trubisky's out, and then we'll just have a 6-3 game and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think Trubisky will be out. Now, Bridgewater's going to struggle to get points against the Bears, but Daniel's going to struggle to get points against the Saints.
Yeah. Then they play Arizona at home, and then you hope to God you have Breeze back for the Falcons on the 10th.
And then what's after the 10th? They have a bye week coming up pretty soon.
The bye week is between Arizona and Atlanta.
Yeah. See, if I'm the Saints, I'm targeting that Falcons game.
Yeah.
By the way, they suck. I don't get many right, so when I occasionally get one right, I like to remind people that I got one. I don't go over.
And they suck.
I called the Saints, the Falcons sucking.
Yeah.
It's like the only thing I ever got right, but I nailed that one.
Carolina got a big win for them yesterday, beating the Texans.
Yeah. All that money that people are making, like right now, they're Joe Burrow is making a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Newton's losing a lot of money.
Kyle Allen's making some coin.
Oh, he's better right now.
He's one of only 3 quarterbacks to win his first 3 road starts in his career, joining Mahomes and Jeff Hostetler.
By the way, the Detroit-Kansas City game was as entertaining an NFL game as you will ever watch.
Detroit's okay. They're not bad.
Look, people can say what they want about Stafford, and he's not going to win Super Bowls and all that stuff. He's out there with a bad hip. Can you imagine how much it hurts to play in the NFL with a bad hip? All the torque and throwing and getting hit and people getting into your legs and all of that stuff and just making play after play. But that cat for Kansas City
just gets it done.
Shit. It's for real.
Yeah. So get into a little line. Yeah, go ahead.
You talk about for real. Can you imagine how many days the Bears wake up and look in the mirror and go, we passed on Patrick Mahomes?
They could have that with that right now.
If they had Patrick Mahomes on a rookie scale deal with that defense, hey, man, I mean, this is a little hyperbolic in that league, but that thing's almost over. Because if the Bears had a quarterback who could consistently score 27 or more, they're not losing. That defense is legit. Like, you earn every first down you get against those guys. If you see the team light the Bears up, you go, well, boy, that is one heck of a team. There are people around the NFL that think the Bears broke the Rams.
It's funny. It's only week 4, and I get that. But kind of like last year, even though it was later in the season, I thought the Cowboys kind of exposed the Saints in that game that Dallas won that was low scoring or whatever. If I'm Dallas, I'm still fine in that division, and that's whatever, and not a bad team by any stretch. I leave the Superdome kind of concerned last night. Can't throw the ball down the field. Can't generate anything. And the Saints are good defensively, but at the end of the day, you got beat when you didn't give up a touchdown. The Saints did not score last night.
No, people are doing what it makes sense to do against the Cowboys, which is, I know you've had some success, Dak. We're not going to respect it.
Yeah. We're not letting Ezekiel go crazy. Sorry.
Yeah, we are taking him away. And if you beat us downfield with an occasional throw to a tight end,
which they did.
And they did. We're going to give you that. Because in the NFL, you can't say, we're going to take everything away. It doesn't work like that. I mean, you don't get to do that. But we're going to take something away. And we're going to make you beat us downfield. And we just don't think you can do it consistently enough. And I don't think he can. And in that division, I mean, look, Wentz has to stay healthy. But if Wentz stays healthy, the Eagles are better than the Cowboys.
Yeah, I thought last night was a weird look for the Cowboys. Just one game. Not the end of the world, but...
Oh, but you held a team without a touchdown, and you couldn't beat them.
Yeah. You got beat by a backup quarterback that didn't score a touchdown.
Yeah, and I like Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's a cool story because he damn near lost his leg.
But he's not, I mean...
But, yeah, I'd rather have Chase Daniel than Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
And again, I was cheering for the Saints last night in large part because I like Bridgewater. I think two things. I like watching. I think Sean Payton's brilliant, and frankly, I think his brilliance comes out more on a night like last night than it does when Drew Brees is throwing the ball 70 yards through the corner of a window pane. When he does that, you're like, shit, I could draw up a few of those plays. I mean, sometimes Brees is so good that you could someone. And I know I'm wrong here, but someone like me feels like I could be like, so Drew, why don't we do the deal where he runs a kind of a flag and this guy runs a post and we'll go underneath here and you just throw it to whoever you want to. Ready? Go. With Bridgewater and the way they mix in Hill and stuff.
Did such a good job with screens last night. Yeah, because frankly, they moved the ball a little better than they got credit for because of some turnovers and just dumb penalties. They had so many penalties last night.
Carson said last night, he said, Kamara's a top 5 player in the league right now. And I thought, what?
Oh,
and then I kind of thought about it.
No.
If you were voting MVP right now and you couldn't vote for Patrick Mahomes, you'd think about Kamara.
He's by far the most slippery player in the NFL. You just can't tackle the dude.
That's 2 weeks in a row that pretty good defenses, Seattle and Dallas, guys who get paid a lot of money to tackle people.
I'd kind of like to see Kamara on a flag football field, just run around.
You wouldn't be able to get his flag.
I mean, there is no hole sometimes, and all of a sudden he's got 7 yards.
Yeah.
Just bounces through every little crease.
Kind of thought about it, and I thought, if you couldn't vote for Mahomes, and let's say the rule was you can't vote for a quarterback. Who's the MVP?
Be thinking about it, wouldn't you?
He's on a real short list.
Mm-hmm.
It's Kamara. It's Khalil Mack. It's Aaron Donald. It's a short list.
So we'll get to those lines in 1 second. We'll take our final break. Before we do that, I'll tell you about Visit Oxford. Visit oxfordms.com. Go to the events page, see everything going on locally this week. It is a home football weekend again with Vanderbilt coming to town. So you got the public double-decker bus tours on Fridays. Those from 3 to 4. You meet right outside on the square there by Visit Oxford. You've got Live on the Lawn this week. That is October 4th from 11:30 to 1. Thacker Mountains on Thursday night. South Talks lectures continue. You've got one of the Americans Got Talent finalists at the Ford Center on October 1st, as well as the First Tuesday music series back at Bryant Hall. So you see where to stay, where to eat, what to do. Check out the events page, bookmark it, and keep checking it out. Again, it's visitoxfordms.com/events.
Podcast also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust based in Madison, Mississippi. They represent clients in more than 20 states, have advisors in multiple states as well. They've been around since 1997. They provide detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. They treat investing like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. So regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, and put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement package that's built just for you. It's pintrust.com, PINNtrust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fees. We'll have picks out later in the week on Thursday. None of us did well at all. Jeffrey finished above 500, barely. Nobody else did. Those are sponsored by Southern Craft Stove and Tap. It's located just off Highway 7 and Sisk Avenue. Southern Craft Stove and Tap places an emphasis on food and atmosphere, mixing the quality of fine dining with a come-as-you-are environment, featuring 30 craft beers and offering a high-quality selection of cuisine and libations. Southern Craft Stove and Tap has you covered for any occasion. Join them for lunch, dinner, Sunday brunch, or have your favorites catered out. Catering orders placed online currently receive $25 off any order totaling $100 or more. So avoid the chaos of parking on the square. Head over and experience carefully crafted dishes with your favorite Southern ingredients. Southern Craft Stove and Tap, Highway 7 and Sisk Avenue in Oxford. And we're brought to you by Dead Soxy. If you're searching for a unique way to brand your company swag, or you have a special event to memorialize, can't recommend enough Dead Soxy's custom sock program. Click on the custom socks link, and they'll walk you through the entire process, from the complimentary digital mock-up before your order is placed to delivery, logistics, and even custom packaging. Dead Soxy is your place to create a gift they will use time and again. With all-inclusive pricing, no upcharges or fine print, the custom sock design process is as simple as it gets. Head over to deadsoxy.com, deadsoxy.com/custom, and remember, you can still save 30% on general orders with the promo code Rebel Grove. And we're brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans. I just talked to Blake this morning. Blue Delta this week is going to be in Orlando on Tuesday, in Fort Lauderdale on Wednesday, in Tampa and New Orleans on Thursday, and then in Houston Friday and Saturday. So if you're in any of those places and you want to book an appointment or a time for a private fitting, it's very simple. Send them a DM on social media or send them an email, info@bluedeltajeans.com. They'll get back with you, and they'll take care of you. So if you're going to be in Florida, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, New Orleans, or Houston this week, you can do that. And while you have them, ask them about the Geno. It's out in the open now. Soft, comfortable, great group of colors. The sewing begins on Halloween, so don't miss the opportunity to reserve your spot in the first run of this great new fabric from Blue Delta Jeans. And we're brought to you by Splinter Creek. It's a gated conservation community located 8 miles southwest of Oxford, 75 minutes from the Memphis airport. It's been featured in Garden and Gun, Southern Living, and more. It's 34 lakefront lots ranging in size from 2 to 25 acres, 650 acres of lakes, pine, and hardwood forest, 6 miles of private roads. The lakes are the main streets of Splinter Creek. They each have a combination of docks and piers, pavilion and fire pits, so much more. They're built for swimming, quiet boating, and fishing. They're professionally managed monthly by American Stock Sport Fish. It's one of the largest producers of live freshwater fish for stocking in the southeast U.S. So if you're coming up this weekend for the game, thinking about relocating to Oxford, retiring to Oxford, you owe it to yourself to get in touch with a Tom Smith Land and Home agent and get a tour of Splinter Creek. It's splintercreekms.com or 601-898-2772.
So we'll just run through these pretty quickly here. Lions setting you up for the week. Utah State is at LSU, and John Hartwell and his boys 24.5-point underdogs in Death Valley on Saturday.
Yeah, they're not a bad team. LSU gets an 11 o'clock kick.
Like they're fourth since 1997.
Yeah, Alabama finally give somebody credit. Everybody complains about Alabama. Greg Byrne didn't make any secret about it. He came out publicly and said, hey, this is ridiculous. We get all these 11 o'clock games. How come they don't? And pointed out the disparity, and credit where credit's due.
Let's see. Moving on down, I'm going to stick with SEC teams. I got one other thing I want to mention at the end of the show as well. Shea Patterson, this line, right? He opened as a 13-point favorite against Iowa, and it's down to 5.5.
Yeah.
Wow. Just noticed that.
I love Iowa in this game. I almost put this on Neil's picks, and I'm still thinking about doing it.
Okay.
Just so we can make fun of Shea.
Okay, that's fine. Really Sean, but either way.
But he's at a point where he could tell his dad to shut up.
That's true. Speaking of line movement here, Auburn and Florida. Just kind of let this one go, and it's looking better by the minute for me. Auburn at Florida. This thing opened at, whoa, hang on. It moved that much?
Yeah, it's moved a lot.
10 points. Auburn is now a 3-point favorite.
Yeah.
Florida was -7.5. Per this.
I know what I saw with Auburn the other night.
Why did we not lock this in at 7.5?
Yeah, I think it would be disingenuous at this point.
Whew.
I know what I saw.
That looks free. Maybe not at 3, but at 7.5.
I love it at 3.
Okay. That's fine. Let's see. Moving on down. Memphis.
Is Trask scoring points against Auburn?
Not enough. I mean, over or under Florida scoring 20 points.
Under.
Yeah. It's kind of the way I'm leaning too, I think. Troy is at Missouri this weekend. Missouri -26 against the Trojans in Columbia.
Like a lot of points.
That does feel like a lot of points. Georgia at Tennessee. This one is 25. It opened at 16.5. It's now at 25.
But shows you what the gambling sharps think of the balls.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned this on the board. It's been all over Twitter. Ole Miss opening as a 6.5-point favorite against Vanderbilt. It's now moved to 7 or 7.5, depending on your favorite book. I've
seen it at 7.5, and my early inclination is that I love the line. I'd lay them.
I think that might be all for the SEC. It is. There are not many games this week whatsoever. SMU ranked for the first time since before the death penalty. Number 24 this week.
Wow.
Yep. I think the last time they were ranked was 1986. Not missing Chad Morris.
How many of those guys are his recruits?
Well, a lot of them. Yeah, a lot of them. frankly, might have done him he might have done them a favor getting Ben Hicks out of there. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
The other guys obviously been okay. This here, I know it will. It's constantly a topic. We might even talk about it later in the week if we need a segment, need some content. D1 Baseball did their top 100 baseball programs in the country for the second year in a row. Ole Miss checks in at number 19 on the list. Says 2017 rank was also, they did it 2 years ago. Sorry, was also number 19. Says Ole Miss fans might take for granted how consistent their program has been under Mike Bianco's leadership, but they shouldn't. Bianco, the current dean of SEC coaches, has taken the Rebels to 16 regionals in 19 years in the most unforgiving conference in college baseball, which is no small feat. Bianco's teams have won 6 of those regionals, have been to Omaha once. This past spring, Ole Miss won its first regional since that 2014 run, a year after getting shocked in a home regional by Tennessee Tech. Ole Miss needs to get to Omaha more than once every few decades to make the jump into the top 10. There's still a lot to be said for the steadiness of Bianco's leadership. Ole Miss continues to recruit and develop well, and it ranks among college baseball's very best when it comes to fan support facilities. The in-state talent isn't great, and neither is the financial aid set up, but Ole Miss can still attract plenty of elite recruits thanks to its special game day atmosphere, charming college town, and the coaching staff's strong track record of development. So, Ole Miss number 19 on the list. If you want to know how hard things are, South Carolina is at 18. Let's see. A&M is at 11. Just kind of scrolling through real quick because I had it all up a second ago. State is at number 8. And then in your top 5, Florida 1, Vanderbilt 2, Arkansas 3, LSU 4. So, there's
just a little conference that could.
I mean, if anything, I'm more shocked Vanderbilt was not number 1.
Well, I mean, they just can't keep it up. My God.
At some point, that 11.7 is going to fill up, right?
I mean, yeah, you just run out of scholarship money.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Oh, gosh. Anyway, that is that. Just if you want to read that, that is at d1baseball.com. If you are interested, plenty at rebelgrove.com as well. Yes, we have a website. You should really check it out. We would appreciate that. A lot of discussion. Neil's already taken mailbag questions. Speaking of baseball, got a little something coming out later today with that as well. So several things going on there at rebelgrove.com. We'll continue the podcast throughout the week, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.